Hi, my name is Michael Pucciarelli, and tonight I'll be talking about the black plexiglass table and how I use it in my still life photography. I first want to introduce who I am. I started professional photography in 2010. 2013, I got an associate's degree in digital photography. In 2015, I joined Professional Photographers America. And then year 2017, I joined the Maryland Affiliate Club. And then in 2020, I joined the Pennsylvania Affiliate Club. So these are some sample images I'm going to show in the demo for Photoshop. Some of these I've entered in competition, some of them I have not, some of them I'm going to. So today's agenda, we're going to talk about the black Plexiglass table. We're going to talk about how to use simple lighting modifiers with this black Plexiglass table. Then we'll talk about camera settings, and then we'll talk about how I use Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Camera Raw to process these still life images with the black Plexiglass table. These are all my tables, but tonight's focus will be on the black Plexiglass table. And this is, the lighting modifier page of this presentation. And these are lighting modifiers you can use with any table, which includes the black Plexiglass table. Anything silver or mirrors, they help produce very dramatic light. And then if the mirrors and silver cards are too strong, you want to use a more softer thing like white reflectors and white cards. And the difference between a silver card and a gold card is that a gold card would produce like a yellowish taint, and the silver card won't. And then there's black cards, where black cards are great for taking out glares in a product. Black cards are great for when a strobe bleeds too much light. Black card will help control it. Black card will help control how much light also can be on the background. It can even out the light. Then there's plastic fusion scrims, and these scrims are great for making the light softer. Colorful gels are great for changing the color of the background and color of the subject. And then you have medium-sized white plexi sheets. These are great for putting in front of the strobe. These are great for also making the light softer. Then at Cinefill, this is like black aluminum foil. This is great for creating like a cheap snoot on a very tight budget. And then for natural light, we have blinds, which can alter the light. You want to make sure that you have the blinds at a 45-degree angle where it aims at the light. Another section of tools, they hold things like spring clamps or C or G clamps. They're great for both. The spring clamps and C clamps are great for holding up white cards, black cards, fusion scrims, silver cards, silver reflectors. Duct tape's great for putting gels or attaching gels to the strobe. And you could do the same thing with clothespins. You could use clothespins to attach the gel to the strobe head. Some of this you could buy at an art store, and you could buy a lot of this at a hardware store. You can even buy some of this at a drugstore, like duct tape and clothespins. There are many ways to use the black Plexiglass table. You could use one light, you could use one flash when continuous, you could use one or more lights and flash continuous. You could use natural light with or without flash or LED lights. And like the white Plexiglass table, two things are important: angle of the camera and position of the light. And the 70 ways to use the table with one light, 2 lights and 3 lights. And the ways to use a scrim, which is the scrim's at a 45-degree angle or a 90-degree angle, and I'll demonstrate this later. This is how to use the black Plexiglass table with the scrim at a 45-degree angle. This setup's great for anything like flat, like jewelry, like watches. You want to make sure you have the object flat. And there's ways to add light without a flash. Like you could add light with like reflectors or mirrors or silver cards. And this light's too harsh, and you want to use like a white card for softer light. And silver reflectors are great for dramatic light, which is more dramatic than white cards. And then sometimes you just need another light, depending on what you photograph. And I'll demonstrate that very soon. This is how to use the black Plexiglass table at a 45-degree angle with the scrim. We're going to make sure the light is 45-degree angle. It's parallel to the scrim. We're going to make sure the light is aiming at the subject. And this is great for anything small. And depending on what you photograph, you may need another lighting source. And I'll demonstrate that next. So you have a background light here, but if this were a mug, I have a light aiming at a 45-degree angle. And make sure you bring out the front or product label. Or you can have the light here, or you can have the light on a boom stand, which is right above it. I'm doing this to bring out the shadows of the subject in the front part of the subject, if this were a mug. And 2 things are important: how you angle your subject and how you angle your lights. A lot of times I use flash, but I can use continuous light. Flash gets you more dramatic effect in still life photography. This is how to use the black Plexiglass table with the scrim at 90 degrees. And there are many ways to use the light. You can position the light in many ways. You can get vignetting effect, non-vignetting effect. I'll demonstrate that in the next few slides. And this, if you're using one light, this is great for a glass subject because the light will shine right through the glass. But then for non-glass subjects, you have a background light, but then you want to have a light that's aiming at a 45-degree angle, or you have light here, or you can have a light right in paramount style. And you could add, any type of lighting source like mirrors, reflectors, discussed in the lighting modifier slide at the beginning of the presentation. This is great. Like I said, if this is a glass subject, this is a great setup for a glass subject because you can get some cool reflection in the water. And I'm also cutting the vignetting in half by positioning the light to get the effects. Then this were, like I said, if this were a non-glass subject, I'd have to have light over here to bring out the front part at a 45-degree angle. And look at the heavy vignetting where I'm cutting the light circle in half because I want to bring out this. And it's also a matter of positioning the light. You could be the light 2 feet away, 1 foot away. You can even have the light at an angle, aiming up. In this caption, I raise the light up because I want to bring out this more. Big difference between the other slide and this. And if you want to make the light softer, you can angle it up, you can move the light away. Many ways to control the light, but moving the light away, aiming the light up. This is another way to use, one flash head, where I have like a reflector to make the light softer. And I have this hanging on a string because I want to put this at a slant. And there are many ways to position the subject, and I'm also using white cards to bounce in light. But I'm just using one light, one flash head. And this is, again, using the 90-degree angle plexiglass table. And I'm using two lights to bring out the front part of this. And the scrim I made out of stretcher frames and staples from Plaza Arts, and I got the fusion material from BH. You need to have a light at a 45-degree angle because you won't bring out the front part. If this were glass, then we just use this light because the light will shine right through. Many ways to use C clamps. Some people call them G clamps. They're great for holding up scrims at a 45-degree angle. They're also great for holding up scrims at a 90-degree angle. And you could do both of these with medium or large size spring clamps. Again, these are spring clamps. You can do the same thing with C clamps. It's a big spring clamp. It's a 5-inch one. You could do the same thing with a very big C or G clamp. And these are gels, and these are clothespins holding the gel to the softbox of the strobe head. And this is also a strip box, a strip strobe, and this is a grid to make the light more flattering. Next, I'm going to talk about how to make walls. You can have scrim walls, you can have white foam cardboard walls, you can have black walls, silver walls, and you can just have one wall. You could have maybe a scrim here, or a white card, or a silver card. Or you could have a different fusion material. This fusion material could be different than this. So there's many ways to do a wall to soften the light of the strobe. This is a white foam wall where we could have the strobe here and a bounce light. You can mix up different types of walls. You could have a white foam cardboard wall. You could have a silver wall over here. This is a silver wall. This is great for bouncing in light. If the flash head were over here, you can do the same thing with gold walls, but you get yellowish taints. And most of the times I just do this with one wall where I have the flash over here, and this will bounce light over here. And then there are black walls where I'm using black foam board. And these walls are great for when a strobe bleeds too much light. You control it by blacking part of the light so there won't be too much light in the backgrounds. That's what you want. Like I said, black walls are great for controlling strobes that bleed way too much light. There's another way to use one flash strobe. This time I'm having the strobes go against the black foam board. And this is a glass subject, and this is great for showing off the edges. And you probably want to maximize the power of the strobe so you get the effect that you like. And again, we have the strobe and back of the white foam board. And if you want to get a certain effect of the edges, you want to move the glass away or closer. If you move the glass away, these lines will change. If you move it closer, the lines will change. It all depends on what you're trying to do. What type of effect you like. This is how you do two strobes with black foam board. We have it at aiming at each other at 45-degree angle. And in this blackboard, if this bleeds too much light, I can cut part of it by turning the strobe more toward the blackboard. And both of these strobes are aiming at a 45-degree angle. And you want to position the light, you want to position the watch of the subject, make sure that the front part is lit correctly. This is two strobes with natural light coming through the window. And these strobes, they show off the edges. And the light's coming through the window at a 45-degree angle. You want to make sure that you angle the blinds so the light, so it forms this 45-degree angle. This is three strobes. We have two strobes over here. We have a strobe over here to bring out this better. This is a good way to do a split light. And the front strobe, which is here, it's to make the product label stand out. And they have two strobes for showing off the edges of the product. If you have any questions, just email me at mpucciarelliart2016@gmail.com. Again, that's mpucciarelliart2016@gmail.com. I'm going to talk about the camera settings I use. This is what my camera diagram looks like. I'm using shutter of 125th, aperture 16, ISO 100. And I want to use manual or for still life or bulb mode for light painting. Sometimes to control the exposure, I have to cut the shutter in half to 1/250th. I want to use ISO 100 or 200. With no tripod, I use ISO 400, ISO 800. I want to make sure you shoot in RAW to get the most editing capabilities. And then you want to use the standard picture style because it's the sharpest. It's great for still life. This is the daylight balance. It's at 5200 kelvins. The evaluative mode is great for contrast. Autofocus mode is AF focus. It's great for nature. It's great for landscape. It's also great for still life. Most times I just use a single shooting mode, drive mode, but sometimes I could use a 2-second exposure, 10-second exposure, or the H+ for high speed or H+ for low speed. I use many drive modes for my still life photography, not just one. So the white balance diagram, I always use daylight white balance, the most natural. Daylight's about 52K. I never use AWS, auto white balance is the least natural. You may add artificial ingredients of photograph. Some people call AWS all wrong balance because it's not right, it's wrong, it's artificial. Then there's custom white balance where you set the white balance by shooting a gray card and then you set the white balance. But the downside of this is if the light changes, then you got to do a new custom white balance setting. You have the white balance options for the temperatures. Like we said, daylight was 52 kelvins. And the temperatures are measured in kelvins. This is a noise reduction diagram. 1 is automatic. 2, something happens, even if there's nothing wrong with the photograph. 2 is great for correcting blue color cast. DSLRs today don't have this problem, but early DSLRs did. It's available if you need it. The thing about 2 is, if you take the picture, it'll take a little longer to get back to the original screen. I would not use this for the 4th of July fireworks, but I would just use one. But if you have blue color cast problems, this setting's available if you need it. This is the ISO noise reduction diagram. I'll do these 1 or 2. You can do standard, but I like to use 2 because it's strong for the noise reduction. 1's good too, but just don't use 3 because you'll disable it and you won't take care of any noise problems when you take the file on the camera. And it's always good to use a setting, either 1 or 2, than to use disable. Another camera settings diagram. We went over the picture style. Color space, I like to use sRGB because I post on the web, but the other color spaces you can use. Talked about custom white balance. We talked about white balance, daylight white balance. Then there's exposure or bracketing, where if you want to take 3 shots, 1 regular, 1 over, under, 1 over, you're just seeing with 2 stops, regular, 2 stops over, 2 stops under. It's great for bringing out the details of still life products. So I clean my still life table. I like to use Novus. Most times I just use 1. And sometimes I use 2 for little scratches. If I use 2, then I gotta do 1. And if I do 3 for bigger scratches, I gotta use 2. Then I gotta end up with 1 for the shine. Most times I use 1, but 2 is for light scratches. 3 is for very heavy scratches. You can buy these substances at any auto store, or you can buy them at Amazon. And then there's ways to get rid of dust because something drives every still life photographer crazy. It's the white specks of dust on the black Plexiglass table. It's where we have these lens blower. It could blow the air, or turkey tweezers. It's great for blowing the air. Also recommend just like a gentle wipe with linen cloth with Novus for a clean surface. These are mirrors for the arms. You can buy at CVS. These are mirror plates. These are armature clips to hold these mirror plates. This is duct tape, other tape. This is armature wire. It's great for having objects to have a floating characteristic. They used to use it in the film days, but some people do, but get the power of Photoshop. These are my C clamps. They're all valuable, all sizes. These are my spring clamps and clothespins, all valuable in all sizes. My gels. I recommend using gels as a light color gel, then a dark color gel, or maybe a dark color gel and a light color gel. It's great to mix contrast. We have silver cards for dramatic light. We have yellow cards for dramatic light with yellowish tint. This is Cinefill. It's black aluminum foil. It's great for creating a snoot on a strobe. For somebody who has a tight budget. Then there's plastic fusion draft paper. It's great for putting on a strobe. These are white scrims. These are frames I bought at a store. This is different type of fusion paper than this. And in many ways, use a scrim. It's great for softening the light of a scrim. It's also great to create a nice clear background. These are my plexiglass sheets. This is great for taking out glares. Since we're talking about the black plastic table, you could use like a small sheet on a stool to serve as a table. And the white plexi sheets are great for softening the strobe. And then for clear plexi sheets, it's great for doing food with the light background 2 feet away from the plex table on the floor. It's great to have. It's a way to photograph food on a floating motion characteristic. These are my white cards. They're great for creating white backgrounds. They're also great for creating like a gray wrap background, depending on how you use the background light. You get big black cards are great for creating black backgrounds. Could also have like a light brown light, depending on how you aim the light at the backgrounds. Like I said, black cards are great for taking out glares. Small white cards are for putting around food to bounce up light. Now it's time to go into Adobe Bridge. I recently did this shot, and here's the raw file. I come up over here, Adobe Raw, or you can do Control or Command R. First thing I want to do is sync the white balance. Here's the white balance. It's in the Basic tab. You adjust exposure, you work your way down, you make improvements. I'll increase the clarity, I'll increase the texture. But make sure that I click the auto. I want to make sure sharpening over 140. I like to use noise reduction at 50. Basically, I just work my way down. Want to remove any chromatic aberration problems. I want to use correct profile corrections. Then you click done. And then you open up the raw file in Photoshop. Now I'm going to go to Photoshop. Basically, there's actions for this. And first thing I do is use a spot healing brush. I start cloning away. And sometimes use a clone stamp. And make sure you're in the layer. And then push the Alt or Option key and click on the keyboard, so when you clone, you match the color. Also, I like to use this. I'm going to do Shift F5. Look at the content aware. When you do Shift F5, you could also do black, you could do 50% gray, you could do white. We're going to do content aware. I'll do Control D to take away the selection. And I like to also, when I select, under selection does a great job selecting. And then when I do more selecting, if I do too much, I'm going to do the Alt key. I'm going to Shift key. Make sure I have an accurate selection. And I do Control C. I do Control D. And sometimes I like to use, save the selection, you give it a name. Then I do channels. And I just do this. I just drag it on. And it loads a selection. Then I do levels adjustments. Sometimes I just use auto. Sometimes auto is not the best thing. So what I do is I get the color sample tool. Bring up the info palette. So you're looking at the histogram. The shadow contains too much green and too much blue. So I'm going to try to fix that. What I'm trying to do is make all these numbers match up. What I try to do is make the reds match up too. And I do that when the numbers match and I have a more accurate histogram of colors. And then when I save, quick export, so it just tells you where I want to save it. So I'm going to push F12 to bring it back to the original file. I'm going to go back to Adobe Bridge. I'm going to black plexi table, since we're doing the black plexi table. I do this one, shampoo bottle. I pick out the best raw file. I copy the raw file here. I'm going to do Control or Command R. And I just work my way down. Start from the Basic tab, make some changes for the clarity. I like to use sharpening at least over 140, noise reduction 50. Optics, I like to remove any chromatic aberration problems. I like to use the correct lens profile corrections. You want to have those checked, then you click done. We're going to click cancel. Now I'm going to go to Adobe Photoshop. And the thing, this is, I have actions that I just dodge and burn, making improvements. Then I have, you know, what I use to speckle, I use dust and scratches, I use sharpen. And I also have and dodge and burn will produce this layer in a group here. So you basically just put what I fill with black. Fill with white. Fill with gray. You click a button. Have dodge and burn where this luminance level, this to the screen level. So I have actions for, you know, the watermark. I do Control Z to take it back. So then when I export, quick export, I'm going to export preferences. Every time I do an export, I use these settings, quality 100. I convert to sRGB. And there's other color spaces you can convert to. I use sRGB. It was what I ask every time I want to export. So I'm going to push F12. Go back over. I'll get a bridge. I want to look at this one, 012. Basically, I go through Control R, work my way down, and click Done. I'm going to go to Photoshop. navigate to my black Plexi table. Since this is Adobe Photoshop coming from a raw file, and basically the same thing, but now what I want to do, I want to put a layer in for the dodge and burn. Creates a folder of dodge and burn. I want to use a very soft brush. Soft and get it. So basically I'm dodging and burning on an adjustment layer or curves. Make it like ice look more attractive. Come over here. And to make the subject look good with dodging and burning. Again. Those actions for everything. Especially with this in IPC. Since the height is bigger than the width, that's what I do. And again, there's dust and scratches. There's lens correction. And the sharpen, I have it just at 200. I use it a lot. Basically, I'm just painting in this. Nice color. Make it look really attractive with the dodge and burn. I save it and just do a quick export. I'll say and this is the end of the Adobe section. These are my Facebook groups. I have a still life photography creative group. I have an architecture city design Facebook group. I also have an F-Stop International Fine Art Photography. I'm running this with another person. This is my Facebook mess. These are my business links, my fine art website, portfolio. you have any questions, just feel free to email me at mpucciarelliart2016@gmail.com. Again, that's mpucciarelliart2016@gmail.com. This concludes the presentation.